I don't think it would be that crazy to say that a large aspect of what made Hunter popular are the extremely dark tones that grow as the story progresses. With how much happens through the story, Hunter has developed this list of horrific events that you can actually categorize with the known horror chart. I want to do exactly that because 'tis the season, and mostly because I believe that Togashi has to be a pretty strongly involved horror fan, so I'll be going about this chart from left to right. It all begins with torture. I hope I don't have to say that line in the future. The use of this in horror usually comes with the character having one or more of the following reasons. Torture commonly runs with interrogation, pleasure, and punishment. Interrogation isn't a common element for torture horror movies though, it's more so something you'll see and it's meant to chill you out in a non-horror focused movie. Which makes sense for us here because it's 2 of the 3 cases of torture while I still can't distinguish the last. See, the first instance I could think of was with Pakunoda and Squala, to where she's pushing Squala to get him to snap because she was actually able to get all of the answers she needed through her psychometry ability. Pushing Squala to snap would get Nobunaga to strike him down immediately right after, which is exactly what had happened. The setup for the scene itself was saddening and cruel, with Squala already knowing that he could potentially die here for the fact that Pakunoda truly played around with his fate. So in this case, it was with both pleasure and interrogation. The second case is with Pito and Pakal. While this was a lot more chilling, it was more so the method of torture that was the issue and the character that it was done on, because Pakal was truly not that threatening as a hunter, nor did it seem like he was cut out for this environment. The scene before it, to where he was hiding in a pile of bones, was also a strong contributor to the tortured scene itself because it was a highly intense situation that completely played around with the viewer on the positive potential outcome for Pakal. Though while being able to break down the situation itself and what led up to it and giving it a lot more depth, the torture itself was nothing more than an interrogation to Pito. Not like there's a deeper personal context, but more so just wanting information that will benefit the ants and the king mostly, and also adding on to the build up to the scene itself. The Chimera Ant arc does extremely well with this overwhelming theme of the hunter you originally knew is dead, or more so kill off what you knew before because of how these hunters from previous arcs are dealt with in the most gruesome way possible. Also playing around with the concept of perspective because it puts it into question on whether or not we would really care if these hunters were anything less, but that's just more so me internalizing what Meruem had said when he was taking over. But on the last case, there was Crollo and his indoor fish. The thing is, I believe that it more so fits into punishment than anything, and even then I don't believe that it fully fits the role there. Crollo had dealt with the man there easily, and he's more so focused on Uvo's Requiem. It looks like it was done more so to just show how easily he dealt with the man, but in reality it's probably the indoor fish. I mean, look at them, they look so cool. Of course Togashi wanted to include these. The next category goes to splatter, which is more so a general term used for all gory movies. I don't need to go in depth with this category in specific because it's easy to understand why it's used. People like it. Obviously, there's setting the tone, character, setting, and other elements, but the basic understanding of this is that people enjoy seeing this. A case of where this might not be the case is when Meruem runs rampant and kills those meant to be closest to him. The case more so focuses on the elements of the character and setting more than anything. And on another example, I think a close connection could be Uvo's Rampage. Because after watching this a good amount of times because of how cool it looked, I came to the realization that I'm reasonably numb to what happens here, even though it's legitimately brutal. On paper, all that Uvo does would be easily classified in a splatter though, and that still stands. For viewers, all they're seeing is one guy versus many guys, and it looks cool. The next category is Hannibal. That's not what it is, but since Hannibal is actually the most notable one of this, I'm giving it to him and taking his name for it. Most of the moments for this would be classified more so around the Chimera Ants doing so, but it doesn't directly classify itself because they aren't the same beings. The one-to-one example is another thing that I pulled from Uvo's Rampage when he bit the face of Leech and used a piece of his bone to kill Rabbit Dog right after. This has some of the same points as Splatter, but a huge area of it comes to the cruelty that comes with it. Uvo's example is meant to show how cruel and powerful he is. Meanwhile, any example of the Chimera Ants is more so a take on the hypocrisy of humanity when it comes to humans and animals. Bring back what Meruem said, because a lot of that is true. It's made business at that point, and morality is more so in the consumer area than the producers. I don't want to get deep into this because it's more so a topic on its own, but you get what Meruem's getting at. It's just more so looking at our perspective, seeing that people getting killed in that way that they did and getting experimented on the way that Pakal did, it's cruel to us. Or well, people will comment that they weren't affected by it, but, you know, it's meant to be cruel to humanity. And that's what it's going for, and that's what its job was. But, you know, people still commenting, nah, this didn't faze me. Cool, I guess, but I digress. Bars, okay. We move on into our next type of horror, being psychological horror, with our first category being madness and paranoia. I believe that madness and paranoia are huge parts of what makes the fourth phase of the Hunter exam so tense, with everyone being on the hunt and everyone was after one thing, but Hisoka being involved is what made everything better. I mean worse, because of what he did was bad. It was totally bad. It was messed up. It was pretty cool. Then there's the invasion and survival of Pakal and Nav. The Pakal point coming back from the interrogation area of torture, but it also fits the survival area for him. Before being settled into the pile of bones, he was paralyzed and captured. We had Ramat in his own head thinking about how he was able to use Pakal to become the king, but then the aura of Pitou completely shut that down and also had set Pakal's fear into place. He already knew that the hunters are going to have a lot of issues with the ants, but seeing Pitou, he's stuck with that feeling that Killua and Gon and Nav learn after their interaction with Pitou, which transfers over into our next topic being on Nav's survival and invasion of the palace. Invasion more so goes over the idea of people breaking into your home, so that would circulate around the idea of the Chimera ants invading the main world, but I wanted to approach Nav's case because it's a different perspective on invasion. With Nav's case, he's invading an area where the ones that are staying there are all stronger than him, except for Komugi, obviously. All the feelings he experiences are emotions usually felt by the victim of the invasion, and he's the one invading, and it's completely flipped on him because he realizes who he's getting into it with. Originally believing that Killua was just overrating the royal guards, but then after actually feeling Pitou's aura, he completely dropped his cool demeanor. Death is minuscule in comparison to what he believes that he'd go through with how much information he holds. The length that Pitou could go completely chills him down to the core. He's exhibiting fear of being overpowered and tortured, two common fears that those experiencing an invasion will feel. Togashi's layer to Nav's experiences is great with how full circle this character truly comes. And the last of psychological horror being phobia. Reason why is because I believe that there are many phobias intertwined with the horror we mentioned previously, but I think one example connecting over here that doesn't connect over to previous categories would do well. A fear of these ants and all that makes them up. And we see this in the split appearance with Pouf. Pouf, after Meruem had been blown up by Netero, was just... it's hard to describe. Different, but yet completely the same. His face had shown the true nature of the ant, a royal guard for his king, but then it's also still Pouf. And his expression is filled with a concept stronger than hate, because this hate is all for humanity, most likely since it's a force that's been changing and harming the king. But aside from the symbolism, jeez, man, this face is just hideous because the thought of just a human-sized ant head separating out of a human face, it's just, oh god. Even though it's the other way around technically, because that's how it's supposed to be, but jeez, dude, it's, cover that up. Now we're in the killer and crime area, but didn't have too much going for killer, so instead I'll be going after crime, and our indicator for that are both of the times we had the Phantom Troop Rampage. I wanted to go about the horror of the crime that the troop commits, but combining the fact that people, me included, love what the troop did, and the troop were forged by the evils of the world says a lot more. Maybe it's not the horrifying thing, maybe we're the horrifying thing to be enjoying it, or maybe the Hunter world is the horrifying thing that made up the troop because it all comes full circle in that case. Probably not. Hunter is just that great. Thank you all for watching. There'll be a part 2 of this because there's a lot more stuff to go over, but I just can't do it all in one go. I wanted to do a video on how strong is Grim for Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, but I was wondering if that was actually the time to be that obscure, so I was just like, I don't know, maybe this is not the time. Maybe I can't do too many of these. Because anytime I meme around and do the cartoon video, people lose their mind and be like, what the heck are you doing? He's so mad at me. And I'm just like having fun, man. What the fuck is wrong with you? But who knows if I'll do that? I don't know. Hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. I'm going to be watching a lot more horror movies, enjoying my time, candy, all that. So happy Halloween. And until then, peace out, play Castlevania, and Godspeed.